WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, quite frequently when we speak to somebody who is a scientific person, it also comes to be known that that person is also a creative person. And you know, I guess we compartmentalize a lot of times the things about each other. We don't realize that somebody who is a cook might also be an athlete, or somebody who is an artist might also be a mathematician, that kind of thing. You know, we always think those who are artistic and creative are separate from those who are scientific and factual. But in the world of doctors, I've always thought that if you're a psychological doctor, you know, somebody who has studied psychology, then it's almost necessary that your brain has to be able to understand scientific things as well as creative things, because in a way you have to be able to, I guess, be what's the word where you have insight?
Intuitive.
Intuitive, yes, thank you. See, you were intuitive. You knew what I wanted to say. Yvette Araujo is on the phone, and if you didn't know that she was a psychologist, you would just simply know her as a very talented writer. So we're going to talk about her books. She's got a couple of them. One is called Origin, another one is called Loathing, and she's also going to talk to us about this troubling thing that's happening in this country where people are hurting one another. Specifically, the story from South Carolina, the 9 people who were shot and killed by that 21-year-old
in Charleston.
In Charleston, South Carolina, at the church up there. Yvette has a background in psychology. She writes and directs short films. She's a researcher. She worked as a therapist for young men, so she probably has something to share with us about her thoughts on the 21-year-old. See, I don't even like to say his name, because I feel like sometimes they do it. She can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sometimes they do it just to get known. Good morning, Yvette. Nice to have you on the air.
Good morning. Thank you, Larry and Robin, for having me on. And what an excellent way to open up your show about the science coming together with creativity, because there is a link to it, just as, you know, holistic medicine and, you know, and medicinal. When they work hand in hand, they can work brilliantly together. So that was an excellent way to open up, especially for this particular tragedy that happened in Charleston.
Yeah, really. Where are you calling from?
Actually, I'm calling from Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver. Okay. Oh, wow. Way up there. Is it cold? It's not cold up there, right? This is July. You got to have warm temperature by now.
They're having what is called something of a phenomenon, a heat wave at 97-degree temperatures, and everyone's just in awe and just looking around at each other, wondering, you know, where's this heat coming from? So it's been fun.
So we want to talk to you about your work as a novelist. I think that's probably the main reason you're on the air. But we also want to pick your brain a little bit about some of these troubling stories, and I hope that's okay with you. Is that all right?
No, that'd be absolutely. I would love to weigh in on this, definitely.
Whenever something horrible happens, and we can pin it on one person, like the shootings in Charleston or the shootings up in Connecticut with those children, or any story like that, in a way, it's hard to get our head around it, because it's not like the attacks of September 11th, which was clearly, well, seems to be politically motivated. But these are just one singular person. It's usually a guy. I mean, you have the Susan Smiths every now and then. This is the lady who drove her 2 children into the lake, right?
Yeah.
But usually it's a young man who does this stuff, or a man. May he not even be young. How? What did I say that was wrong? Anything?
I'm sorry. What I was going to say is moving, you know, past what I find exemplary of this community in Charleston is that, you know, the North and the South has been divided in this country for so very long in ways of attitude and the ways of separation of state. and church and race relations. And what I think is so brilliant that came out of this tragedy is that this particular southern, city or community, I should say, bonded together and they didn't see the need to tear down their community
Right.
after some tragic, situation of an Anglo boy who was clearly, and the first thing that resonated with me when this happened, I shed a tear because there is such a dismissal of mental illness in this country. Everyone goes straight to the word crazy, and that's why people don't step into a therapist's office when they have, thoughts, and they think that they're alone, and they're not. There are other people that have ideations and we move past it, and then there are people that have ideations and then they act on them, such as this young man. And so, you have to first challenge that in this country, that we need to be looking at mental illnesses, looking at it closely, stop giggling when people say that they want to do these horrific things and try to dismiss it, because after the damage is done and after people are left, fatally wounded, you have all these people and friends and family saying, oh, he did say that, he was really angry and really frustrated. And yeah, he did say it more than a couple of times. I probably should have said something. And, so you have a lot of what ifs, and
Right.
there are red flags there. There are red flags there, and we ignore them. And, I don't understand why. I know that psychology is such a stigma because it's not an exact science. And, two psychologists can vary in their opinion on their diagnosis of a person. But overall, as a whole, as a society, we have to start looking at our young males, at our youth, females alike, and looking at how they think about things and how they don't value life.
Now, I'm going to speak out of line here because I don't really know this kid. But this is what I imagined. I imagined this is a kid, and again, my disclaimer that I really just speculation. But I imagine that this was a kid who had, let's say, adults in his life, maybe his parents, maybe older siblings, maybe just other friends, who clearly had racist thoughts, but maybe would never ever hurt anybody. But they would tell maybe the racially insensitive jokes, and I know it happens on both sides. So I'm not playing favorites here, but I'm just, in his case, he happens to be a white kid, and I'm guessing that if he's in an environment where you live and you work together in an integrated community where everybody works together and you still have people who will have, like I said, racially insensitive jokes or racially insensitive observations. You make statements like, gosh, if it wasn't for what's the program where equal opportunity? If it wasn't for equal opportunity, I would have had that job. That kind of thing. You pick on that. So if he's got a psychological illness, a mental illness, and he believes that the black people are the problem, all that insensitive stuff around him that seems harmless becomes harmful because he takes it a different way than somebody else might.
Well, I just, again, in this particular case, I guess I'm isolating it. When you saw the mercy and the forgiveness when he was brought in for his initial hearing, when he was captured, actually turned himself in, and you saw the forgiveness and the open hearts of the people left behind, the family members that had lost their members. For me, I guess this is an isolated case, and I just see this kid as being mentally ill. No one can walk in and sit through a Bible study for 15 minutes, hold hands, pray, and then something just snapped. And I don't think it was necessarily the people that were sitting in his presence at the time. I think that it becomes an excuse in the end, and thank goodness it didn't implode in this community. But I do, and it is my speculation too, just as you were speculating that he may have had people around him that, dropped the N word and were really insensitive and all of these things. But I don't think that was his go-to. I think something seriously was wrong with this kid long before that incident, and then that was just like an afterthought type of thing. And, and I could be absolutely wrong, but for this particular case, I don't see it as a racially motivated tragedy. I don't. I think he was seriously disturbed, and I think he was struggling. I really do. And in the end, yes, there were epithets and things in which he said and did, and yes, it fell on a very, very historical monument, Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, but they will rise again, and what he did was bring people together is what he ended up doing, which was a grace, which I think was, a good thing. Unfortunately, we've lost 9 people for that grace.
Right.
But, again, I just think that mental illness needs to be looked at. And again, relevant for life where youth is concerned, they don't have it the way the older generation does. They don't value their lives, so why would they value yours?
But the mental illness doesn't hinder the fact that he did plan this. It wasn't just all of a sudden he went there and did it.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right about planning, but also going into Bible study, he had trepidation. So, it wasn't a well thought out plan, and you think he gave himself up in the end. There was no, chase and run and, and hostile. I mean, he just kind of just laid it down. And I think the weight of the world, like, oh my gosh, what have I done? The gravity of it sunk in. But again, the conduct disorder males in which we worked with, the offense-specific males that I worked with, they did not have a moral compass. They had no reverence for life. They would say to me, I don't plan to live past 17, so, I'm going to go out, of glory. And that's sad. I mean, because really that's the way it is. And when you have, violent imagery of, of movies and songs that replicate and glamorize it, that makes it even better for them, like, hey, I will become legend in this particular community because I took 17 bullets and and the 18th one is the one that took me down, and my name will forever be tagged on a wall or basically.
So is it illogical to say that logic might prevail? In other words, if we somehow as a society decided to never, ever again publish the names, publish the photographs of any shooter, do you think that would put an end to it? Is there a certain amount of fame that helps as a catalyst to get somebody to make this decision to do this?
I think that's a perfect way to take steps to move forward. If we stop glamorizing and putting their names out there, and yes, we do it for a reason, and then we keep disclosure of those that have been hurt, such as rape victims or people that have. I understand that, but to glorify the names such as Susan Smith, we'll always remember. And you can barely remember the names of the children.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But you remember Susan Smith. And how sad is that? We remember all these notorious, serial killers, it's the Ted Bundys of the world, the Charles Mansons, and, and so I think you've hit on something. Moving forward, why give them a face? Why give them a name? And why give them a certain look, whether it's, an Anglo male, a male of color, a female that is, says that she has postpartum depression.
Right.
Why give it look? So people will resonate towards that, and then Lifetime movies are made from it. I don't get that.
Do you think people of the older generations like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, that they're not having us try to live in harmony, because it seems like they always come forward and stir trouble when advancements seem to be made that everybody's trying to get along.
I absolutely agree with you. So you have no idea how tethered to the hip you and I are on that statement. In this situation, it didn't deserve them coming down, because everyone knows that once you see their faces, it's all about racism. It's all about a division and what they're going to try to fix. And what it does is it just stirs trouble. And this was a community that understood that healing was the best possible way of dealing with this tragedy, versus the Baltimore, Maryland, tragedy where everyone went berserk and started burning down their own community, which absolutely made no sense at all. And, not from the north or the east, where everyone.
Right.
But definitely when you see these faces, the Al Sharptons of the world and Jesse Jackson, you're like, oh, no, okay, now we're moving into, murky waters, where if sometimes, someone says, sometimes, you can bruise yourself, and someone says, well, the best thing you can do is just leave it alone and it'll heal. Well, that's what this community needs to do. They need to take a look at everything that came from it, the gun control issue that was stemmed from it, the Confederate flag that was brought up. Everyone needs to just stop, take a breath, and take a look at everything that fell out from the shooting and start to mend and start to make changes and to move forward together as a unit. Not have, activists come down and start stirring up trouble and waving flags and all these things.
Right. Yvette, you have given us something priceless. I appreciate that, and I want to make sure we are talking about your books, because it's two separate subjects, but your expertise really helps us understand something that we're all trying to understand, so we appreciate that. But why don't we take a break, kind of separate the two segments from one another. We'll listen to the weather, and when we come back, I want to hear about the books. You've got at least two of them that I know. Origin, which is awesome. That's the one we got. And there's another one called Loathing. And I just went to your website, by the way, and you have a photograph of the inside of the church, and I hadn't seen the picture. It's a pretty church.
Yes, it is. It's lovely.
Yvette Araujo, when we come back, we'll continue talking to Yvette. We'll learn about her books. We certainly appreciate the insight into the tragic shooting up in Charleston, South Carolina. We'll be back after this.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, a mix of clouds and sun with a heavy thunderstorm or two around, especially during the afternoon hours, the high 88 to 92. A shower and thunderstorm this evening, mostly cloudy overnight, though 71 to 75. Tomorrow, partly sunny with an afternoon thunderstorm, high 88 to 92. For Wednesday, sun mixing with clouds with a thunderstorm around, especially in the afternoon, the high 88 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Legally Yours, brought to you by Fuller & Fuller Attorneys at Law. On the air every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. with John Fuller, a board-certified civil trial lawyer for over 25 years. John welcomes your questions, from business to complex family matters to legal disputes. So tune in every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Legally Yours with John Fuller, right here on WOCA 1370 AM and 96.3 FM, The Source.
Whether you're building it up or knocking it down, get it done, rent it now. Sunbelt Rentals is here to make your job a little easier. Our knowledgeable staff will help you find the right equipment for any job, big or small. Did you know that Sunbelt Rentals carries heaters, air conditioners, generators, lighting, traffic control, and so much more? So whether you're building it up or knocking it down, we've got the equipment you need. Get it done, rent it now. And right now, for a limited time, you can have it for less. Just by mentioning this ad, if you rent it Friday afternoon, you can keep it the whole weekend and only pay for one day. But this is a limited time offer, so stop into Sunbelt Rentals today, Northwest 27th, just a quarter mile east of I-75. For more information, just give us a call, 352-369-9101. 352-369-9101. Sunbelt Rentals. Get it done, rent it now. 352-369-9101.
If you're anything like I was, the thought of getting older was the last thing on your mind. But here we are. For me, it started slowly. The lack of energy. never being in the mood. And when I was, I could never perform at my best. I tried the pills and other treatments with minimal results, and all but given up on my sex life. Then I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
5 minutes left in the half hour, and gosh, that's not really enough time. Yvette Araujo is on the phone. She has been sharing with us some of her thoughts about when one person with mental problems decides to take out other people, in specifically the case in Charleston, South Carolina, with the young man the 21-year-old man who shot and killed 9 people of the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston. That was part of her brain. Now we want to talk about to her about her creative part of her brain. Yvette is also a talented author. Yvette, how many books have you written?
I've written 3, or actually, let's see, this would be 13 books. 12 in the Fall in the Book series that you have been given. I think that you were given the second one in the series, Origin, Loathing being the first one.
Oh, Loathing is first. Okay, okay. So Loathing is first, Origin is second, and there are 13 others.
And yeah.
Oh wow. So you've been writing these a long time. Is this an outlet for you? Is it therapeutic for you? Are you there?
Which I was working with my conduct disorder boys and my offense-specific.
Okay, say that again, because I think we lost you for a second there. Say it over.
Yes, it's very... I wrote them long ago when I was doing work with the conduct disorder boys and my offense-specific boys. So it served as a creative process to, to set that part of my life, at, rest. And I could, be creative in my writings with the Fall in the Book series.
I just looked at your picture. If I was a boy, I would misbehave just so I could get you to work with me.
That is so great. You know what's so funny about that is when we were on campus working with those boys, the hair had to be pulled back tight and no makeup, and you had to wear the button-up shirt, and so I look very, very different than the photographs on that website. So, but thank you very much for the compliment.
I bet I could still see through that too. I know how boys mind things. So in writing the story, when you did the first book, Loathing, did you know in advance that it was going to be a series?
I did. I wrote them all, manuscript. I handwrite them all, and I had a talented screenwriter, Jana Zinzer, which is on the first book with me, and she developed my manuscripts into screenplays, actually. And I just kept writing, and I got to the finale, which the 12th book is under lock and key because it's the finale as to whether or not good will overcome evil or will evil overcome good. And what is the line between good and evil? It's quite blurred. And so as you're going through the series of books, you never know what is actually good and what is actually bad in the world. And my 6 characters are struggling with that. So it's an interesting way that I really blended what I was doing at the time, working with these boys, into fiction of 6 humans that discover that they are archangels from yesteryear, but they're not your warm and fuzzy angels. They are conflicted.
Wow.
Because they don't know quite what they want to do, and they're angry most of the series of the book.
Yvette, thank you for being on the air with us. Please come back. I really want to talk longer about the books. We kind of got preoccupied with the other story. Fallen. The book is Fallen. The website, fallenthebookseries.com. Yvette Araujo, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Larry and Robin.
Studio. This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. It was a show of defiance to Greece's creditors, voters rejecting a plan